If you've watched this channel for a while, you know I've changed my button layouts more often than... I don't really have a good example for this, but it's been a lot. I've jumped from game to game, from controller to controller, chasing the ghost of the perfect layout. Today I'm not going to pretend that the objectively perfect layout exists, but I am still sticking with the M Ultra Gen 2. With this controller, I have finally cracked a button layout scheme that accomplishes actually everything I need it to do. And the secret to making it work, it all still comes down to the left pinky button. But different to what I said previously. Let me walk you through the exact philosophy of the setup. Right now, Street Fighter 6 is still my main game, with a little bit of Tekken 8 on the side and some 2XKO sprinkled in. For SF6, the foundation is standard. Normal face buttons, leverless movement is standard as well, left, down, right, and the massive button for up. Top row of attacks, light, medium, and hard punch. Bottom row, light, medium, and hard kick. With drive impact assigned to the right pinky button on the same bottom row, which only leaves L1, the pinky button on the top row. I don't have any in-game input attached to it though, right now it's purely navigational. But the extra utility buttons are where the magic happens. To the left of up is L3, which serves as my dedicated parry. And that's in all three of the aforementioned games, by the way. But obviously character specific in Tekken 8. To the right of up is R3, acting as my training mode function key almost exclusively in Street Fighter 6. It's actually really convenient. The touchpad key is above down, mainly used for training mode utilities like resetting the room, for instance. For Tekken 8, it's actually a macro that accomplishes the same thing, as you do need to hit touch plus X in that game for whatever reason. With the exception of the button to the left of up, none of the other buttons are really gameplay related for the most part. Below X and to the right of up, this button used to be my main drive impact input, but I generally never want to move my right thumb away from the up button. So I moved DI back to L2, which I've now finally... No, I still can't react to DI. So R3, which again is mapped to this button, is relegated strictly to my function button within Street Fighter 6's training mode. In Tekken 8, it's a 1+4 input, I believe, which my characters can utilize, but it's still the least pressed button for me. In training mode, however, in all three games, I keep hitting the button above down the most to reset the training room. That's definitely a contender for MVP on this entire setup. But let's talk about the actual star of the show, the furthest left button, operated by the left pinky. I have finally found a use for this that makes sense regardless of what I play, whether on PC or on my Switch 2. I turned this into a dedicated system function button. Not to be mistaken with Street Fighter 6's training room function key, but why do I need one? Because it stops me from diving into annoying system menus to adjust settings that should be adjustable on the fly. For instance, the biggest advantage is to be able to change profiles on the fly. I have a dedicated layout for Street Fighter 6, which I also use for 2XKO, and a totally different one for Tekken 8. By holding my left pinky function key, the menu buttons on the actual top row of the controller become profile switches. The furthest left menu button activates my Street Fighter 6 layout. The one next to that, Tekken layout. Just like that, I have 4 different profiles available instantly if I wanted to. But what about the fifth button on the far right? That's my options button, what used to be called the start button. Now usually to get into your controller's setting mode, you have to hold start while physically plugging the controller in. People constantly complain about the USB ports on these controllers for being too flimsy when plugging and unplugging them. I have to worry about that a little less now. I configured it so that pressing start while holding the function button soft resets the controller. If I hold both of them down, it restarts directly into setup mode. I literally never have to yank that USB cable out again unless I actually want to disconnect the controller. Here's where the convenience truly peaks for me. I play with D-pad style inputs, but there are times, like in Tekken's character customization mode, where you want to spin the 3D model around so you know what you're putting on their backs and whatever, right? You need a right analog stick for that, which leverless controllers, as the name implies, obviously don't have. Now I just hold my left pinky function button and press L3 or R3. This instantly shifts my directional inputs into left or right analog stick. Let go of the function button, press it again, hit a direction, and it reverts back to D-pad. I have all analog and D-pad options instantly available without touching a menu. Getting to this layout was a long process of unlearning bad or unnecessary habits. Back when I used the R16, I never used the button above square, and I never used the left thumb button on the other controllers either. Why? Because when Street Fighter 6 launched, I basically played it like Street Fighter 4 and 5. I ignored Drive Rush completely. It wasn't until C-Viper dropped that I was forced to actually learn the drive mechanics. And I realized having a parry on my left thumb makes perfect sense. That thumb wasn't doing anything else anyway. Granted, it did take some time to get used to at first, as my left thumb was, and still kinda is, useless. And then I started playing 2xKO and I thought, hey, assigning the left pinky button to tag would be logical. Technically speaking, this button would make more sense, right? Technically speaking, and like all things considered, I should have a button here, and this one is technically optional, but I'm very used to this one by now. But yeah, so having a pinky button for tag is, I think, really beneficial. But in practice, it didn't work. Mostly because I realized I still don't know and really don't like playing tag games. So I'm still really playing Juggernaut, even though that's kind of impossible in that game. I love watching Marvel vs. Capcom 3, for instance, and I enjoy playing 2xKO duos with my brother. But I don't play it enough to justify a dedicated tag button. Having said that, right now I'm absolutely loving Senna. I still don't understand how to play tag fighters, but this is quite fun at least. Anyway, that whole experiment led me here. Having a dedicated left pinky button for system functions makes so much more sense than an awkward button above square that I never used to begin with. It gives me an identical seamless experience on my PC where I play the most, and my Switch too. Earlier this year I went to Japan and took my S16 because it's more convenient for travel, and I hadn't fully solved this layout puzzle yet anyway, so it wasn't actually an issue. And even though that one doesn't have a left pinky button, the turbo button is in the top left corner, which I originally used as a functions button anyway. This is great as the whole setup is 100% applicable to both controllers, and the S16 can remain my Switch 2 and MacBook travel companion. So for my next holiday, the S16 will remain by my side because as much as I love the M Ultra Gen 2, you can't beat being able to jam both the S16 and the Switch 2 into the same protective case. It's just too convenient. For the foreseeable future, this is my definitive setup. Every button has a purpose, the ergonomics are incredibly comfortable, and I never have to move my right thumb off the up button, well, at least not during actual matches. But I know people in this space are deeply opinionated about this stuff, so I want to hear from you. How do you configure your controllers to make the most ergonomic sense for your hands? How do you apply those settings? And what is the design philosophy behind all of that? Drop your layout sequence down in the comments, or spam the good old potato emoji, I always love seeing those. See you next time.